Hello there. You're watching All 24 News World News Program. I'm your host, Karim Zachary, and these are the headlines. President of the Republic Abdelmajid Tebboune is represented by Algerian Prime Minister Ayman bin Abdurrahman in participating in the memorial and funeral ceremony of Queen Elizabeth II. President of the Algerian Republic Abdelmajid Tebboune sent an official invitation to Iraqi and Djibouti presidents to participate in the Arab Summit held in Algeria. Algerian Minister of Foreign Affairs Ramtal Amamra arrived in New York to take part in the 77th session of the United Nations General Assembly. Also coming up in our news, Iran's President Raisi repeats call for nuclear deal guarantees ahead of a UN visit. Hello again and welcome to the program. First in our news, Algerian Prime Minister Ayman bin Abdurrahman represented President of the Republic Abdelmajid Tebboune in participating in the memorial and funeral ceremony of Queen Elizabeth II at Westminster Hall in London. The Prime Minister expressed his condolences to the royal family and the British people on behalf of President Tebboune, the government and the Algerian people, recalling the efforts made by the late Queen to work on developing and promoting relations between Algeria and Britain.
قدمت باسم السيد رئيس الجمهورية الجزائرية الديمقراطية الشعبية السيد عبد المجيد تبون.
I'm here on behalf of President of Algeria, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, to offer his sincere condolences and those of the Algerian government and people on the death of the Queen Elizabeth II, and also to express the feelings of condolences and solidarity with the ruling family and the British people, as well as our gratitude for the Queen's efforts to enable peace, progress, and development at the global level. We're also very grateful to the efforts she made to work on developing and promoting relations between Algeria and Britain and between their great people.
US President Joe Biden traveled to Britain to Buckingham Palace to attend a reception hosted by King Charles III. Sofian Katuri reports.
US President Joe Biden and First Lady Jill Biden on Sunday signed the official condolence book for the Queen Elizabeth II. The next day, US President Joe Biden traveled to Britain to Buckingham Palace to attend a reception hosted by King Charles III. Biden spoke at Lancaster House in London, while visiting Westminster Hall, where the Queen is lying in state. He called the late monarch decent and honorable, adding his heart went out to the royal family.
She kept offering me more. I kept eating everything she put in front of me. But she was the same in person as her image. Decent, honorable, and all about service. And our hearts go out to the royal family, to King Charles and all the family.
Biden's plane arrived at London's Stansted Airport, outside the capital just before 10 p.m., while the king was hosting dignitaries inside the palace, including presidents, prime ministers, and dignitaries who had traveled to London from all over the world. President Biden also addressed the English people and has shown his condolence, emphasizing that the Queen Elizabeth II treated her own people with dignity.
So to all the people of England, all the people of the United Kingdom, our hearts go out to you, and you were fortunate to have had her for 70 years. We all were. The world's better for her. Thank you.
President Joe Biden is one of hundreds of the world leaders in town to pay their respects to the Queen, who died in September 8 at the age of 96 after 70 years on the throne.
Still with the Queen's funeral, a national moment of mourning has been observed across the UK for Queen Elizabeth II. The moment of silence, which took place on Sunday at 8 p.m, was held in the memory of the monarch, and saw mourners across the UK come together to pay tribute. The government had encouraged people to spend a minute in reflection either at home, with neighbors, or in locally organized ceremonies. And in order to secure the best viewing locations for Queen Elizabeth's funeral, hundreds of people set up camp outside Windsor Castle starting in the early hours of Monday. Some travelers have brought sleeping bags and blankets, and some departed at 3 a.m. and have brought their own tents. To a different matter now, Hurricane Fiona struck Puerto Rico's southwest coast on Sunday. It unleashed landslides and knocked the power grid out. Forecasters said the storm would cause massive flooding and threatened to dump historic levels of rain.
This area here, Villa Santa, is the area we are most worried about, because when they open the carousel floodgates of the big river of Louisa, these houses here will have water up to the second floor.
Still with weather disasters, a tropical storm slammed southwestern Japan with fierce rainfall and winds Monday, injuring dozens of people. Residential streets were flooded with muddy water from rivers, and swathes of home lost power after Typhoon Nanmadol made landfall in the Kyushu region Sunday, then weakened to a tropical storm.
I was playing games with my friends when suddenly I felt a gust of wind. I turned around and saw some of the wood on my window frame broke off. I wasn't injured, but was pretty rattled.
Algerian Minister of Foreign Affairs Mr. Mtal Mamra has arrived in New York at the head of a strong delegation to take part in the 77th session of the United Nations General Assembly. This year's General Assembly will be held under the theme A Turning Point, Transformative Solutions to Intertwined Challenges. This theme reflects the critical situation created by interconnected crises such as COVID pandemic, climate change, and the war in Ukraine. Still with the same topic, world leaders will converge in New York this week for the UN General Assembly. For the past 2 years, world leaders have been allowed to submit video statements due to the COVID-19 pandemic. But this year, it's different. Hossam Barkan.
Facing a complex set of challenges that are testing humanity like never before, world leaders are meeting at the United Nations headquarters this week, in the shadow of Europe's first major war since World War II. For the first time in 3 years, the leaders will deliver their speeches in person, in the vast General Assembly Hall. There will be no more pre-recorded speeches due to COVID-19 or hybrid meetings, with the exception of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres spoke in New York City on Saturday before the UN General Assembly and affirmed that the world really needs to turn around in aspects including geopolitical division.
The geopolitical divisions that we are witnessing today are terrible. Now we have a war between one superpower and Ukraine, that is also a modern country. And we are talking of levels of devastation that are not possible in situations where the nature of the armaments and the military capacity in place are completely different.
At this year's meeting, world leaders would confront not only a world economy still recovering from COVID-19, but the largest war in Europe in decades, and its effect on the world food supply and climate change.
The General Assembly has itself repeatedly been taking up the issue of Ukraine since the start of the current outbreak of war in February. The sort of disruption that has been caused by the war in Ukraine, including not just, of course, the fighting, but the disruption, for example, in the supply of food and fertilizer around the world.
Beyond the long list of global emergencies to tackle, reforming the Security Council, the UN's main tool for tackling challenges to global peace that has become increasingly paralyzed, will also be high on the agenda. Efforts to reform the Security Council have tried and failed over the years and would require that General Assembly adopts a resolution on reform by a two-thirds majority and an amendment of the UN Charter, a daunting task for countries to take on.
Moving on now, U.S. House of Representatives Speaker Nancy Pelosi on Sunday strongly condemned what she said were illegal border attacks by Azerbaijan on Armenia. Azerbaijan, in turn, scolded the U.S. House of Representatives for saying that Baku had started a border conflict with Armenia, saying her remarks can undermine the peace efforts.
Our meeting, again, had a particular importance to us because of the focus on security following the illegal and deadly attacks on by the Azerbaijan on the Armenian territory. We strongly condemn those attacks, we in our delegation and on behalf of Congress, which threatens prospects for much-needed peace agreement.
Residents returned to their hometown of Balaklia, which Ukraine recaptured last week after 6 months of Russian occupation. The city, which had a pre-war population of 27,000, is one of the main urban outposts that Ukraine recaptured in the northeast Kharkiv region in early September after the sudden collapse of one of the main lines of Russian front.
The train was started on September 14th, and already on the first train, there were people traveling back and forth to Balaklia. They went there to see what had happened to their homes, to check whether they are destroyed or not.
I'm being overwhelmed by my emotions. We haven't been at home for 5 months. I really want to see what is there and what has happened. I'm not crying. I'm fine.
To the Iran nuclear deal now, Tehran would be serious about reviving a deal on its nuclear program if there were guarantees that the United States would not again withdraw from it. Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi said in an interview broadcast on Sunday. Last month, Iran's foreign minister said Tehran needed stronger guarantees from Washington for the revival of the 2015 deal and urged the UN atomic watchdog to drop its politically motivated probes of Tehran's nuclear work. And in a response to the occupation's attempts to force Israeli teaching methods on Palestinian schools in the occupied city of Al-Quds, school children in the Gaza Strip started a series of events on Monday. At the invitation of the Palestinian Ministry of Education and Higher Education, thousands of students took part in these demonstrations, holding signs criticizing the education beds. And preparing for the Arab Summit scheduled to be held on November 1st, President of the Republic Abdelmajid Tebboune sent an official invitation to Iraqi President Burhan Saleh to participate in the summit. Algerian Minister of Justice Abdelrashid Tabbi handed over the invitation letter to a special envoy, or as a special envoy to the Algerian president. Previously, President Tebboune had sent official invitations as well to President of Djibouti, Ismail Omar Guelleh. The invitation letter was handed over by the Algerian Minister of Trade, Kamal Rizk, in his capacity as a special envoy to the Algerian president. Both heads of state expressed their willingness to participate in the Arab Summit in Algeria. Abdullah Ben Kiran, the Secretary General of the Justice and Development Party, criticized the Moroccan government's efforts to normalize relations with the Zionist organization. He stated during a caucus that while the state had its obligation, the people had their own personal convictions.
If you are going to keep silent, one day Moroccans will be working there, and only God knows what they will do. I know that we signed the agreement with Israel at time and circumstances that only God knows about it. Moroccans didn't accept the idea of normalization, and they won't.
And with this, ladies and gentlemen, our news bulletin comes to a close. Thank you for tuning in, and bye for now.